and they asked, how do I know when to stretch versus when to foam roll or when to rest? And that's a great topic. What's up, everyone? We rebranded the podcast a couple weeks ago to the Take Control of Your Life podcast. And what we're trying to accomplish with this is things that we struggle with on a day-to-day basis, whether it's eating habits, injuries, time, getting into the gym, work life. We're trying to help you with the prioritizing of these tasks. So we truly believe that fitness should be your number one priority, or not fitness, health should be your number one priority. And oftentimes we struggle or we lose sight of that. So that's what this podcast is now going to be about, is what are the things that we struggle with and how do we overcome them? So I had a member ask a couple weeks ago, they were having some pinching in their neck, and they asked, how do I know when to stretch versus when to foam roll or when to rest? And that's a great topic. And so the way that I approach it is, what is actually causing the pain? And so for this person, they had what's called wry neck, and it is just your tissues, your muscle tissues, they intertwine with each other, and they need to be able to freely glide and slide with each other. And what happens is sometimes their lubrication dries up and they stick. And that's what causes this pinching irritation feeling. And so for her, I said stretching's not really going to fix that. You need to shear the tissues and get them moving again. And so we need to understand, what is the pain? So what is the feeling that they are having? What is causing it? So is it a motor control thing? Like, is it just a shape? Are they sitting, is pulling the shoulders back and down going to fix this pain thing? Oftentimes it can. I have another athlete that she was having some shoulder pain and she was doing snatches. And I said, hey, I need you to, I showed her how the shoulder works. And I said, I want you to pull your shoulder back and down. I really want you to focus on that as that bar goes overhead. No pain. And in the 6 weeks of physical therapy she had post-shoulder surgery, they never once talked about the mechanics of the shoulder and what your position should be as it goes overhead. And to me, that's a huge problem. We need to talk about, what is your motor control? What should the shape actually look like? Because I got her out of pain in 2 seconds just by talking about position and rant. So back to, should we be stretching or should we be foam rolling? For the neck issue, the tissues were stuck together. They were having a pinching sensation. And so I figured that the tissues were tight. And what we need to do is get them to move again. So rolling would fix that issue. Now, if I have an athlete who is trying to create a position and they're just not quite getting it, and this comes down to, it could just be a motor function, like they don't understand how to create the shape, or they physically don't have the mobility to get into the shape, or they don't have the flexibility to get into the shape. And a great example of this would be, you have an athlete who is struggling to squat, and you watch them. Can they touch their toes? And can they do a pigeon stretch? Can they do a couch stretch? So those are the 3 stretches I can check to see, are they flexible enough to create the shape? And if they can't touch their toes, and if they can't sit upright on a couch stretch, then they might be lacking some mobility, and we need to look at stretching. On the flip side, we should be doing both, foam rolling and stretching. Foam rolling allows the tissues to freely move and slide again. It helps keep their ability to move. And stretching is the elasticity of the muscle. So oftentimes, if you are in pain or you are having some tightness, typically it is foam rolling that's going to fix it. So the 4 steps to this would be, is it motor control? So just fixing the shape, is that going to take us out of the pain? Step 2 is joint function. So is the joint jammed up in there? This could be your humerus jammed up into your scapula. This could be your hip or your femur jammed up into your hip socket. This could be your elbow is tight. And you can do joint distractions with this, which is where you would take a band and either pull to the end of the joint capsule and allow it to move and get some range of motion back in there. That often works quite well. From there, if that's not the case, if it's not the joint capsule, then we look at shearing the tissues. And the hard part with pain or discomfort is it's typically upstream, downstream. hopefully this makes sense. So I had an athlete, they were having, I believe they were having anterior deltoid pain in a front rack position. This is not an athlete I typically coach. Coach Matt usually works with them. And they were getting it when creating a front rack position. So what's happening is you're winding these tissues up to get into that external rotation of the shoulder. And they said that they had already tried stretching the lats, which is a great place to start, is smashing and stretching the lats, because your lat comes off of your spine and it turns from a really wide, like bat wing muscle, and it winds up and then it goes and attaches to the humerus, and it's responsible for pulling down. So if it's tight, my ability to get my elbows up is not going to be there. Since they had already started there, and he had already been working on that for a couple weeks and it wasn't fixing the problem, I knew it was either going to be tight traps or tight rhomboids. And the reason I thought it was tight rhomboids is because he was not having issues doing this with a dumbbell. And it's because the dumbbell allows us to be in a neutral position versus this external rotation position. And so in order to get here and get our elbow up, your shoulder needs to be able to rotate back and down off of the humerus. And it cannot rotate if the rhomboids are tight at the bottom. And so I started poking around and we found a tight spot. I had him roll it out, and what do you know? No more pinching or irritation feeling. This stuff, once you get into it and once you start looking at it and understanding upstream, downstream, how muscles attach to bones, you will understand how the body works. And so really that's what you need to do if you want to know how to rid yourself of this minor discomfort that we often go through when doing a fitness program. So I know that was a long-winded answer, when to stretch versus when to foam roll. The gist is, start with motor function. If that doesn't work, joint capsule. If that doesn't work, it's typically going to be tight tissues that are just being stuck together and that can be fixed with foam rolling. However, some of us do lack flexibility, so stretching can also help as well. Hopefully you guys understand this better. If you have any questions or concerns, just shoot me an email, devin@crossfitcontrol.com. I love talking about this stuff. If you want me to dive deeper on this topic, just let me know. But thank you for listening.